Well, yes, we've got His Excellency Yahaya Bello, Governor of Kogi State, joining us next today on the program. Good morning, Your Excellency, and thank you for joining us today on the program. Well, clearly, and rightly so too, the country...
Thank you. Good morning, Chamberlain, and good morning, viewers.
Thank you. The country is rightly concerned about what is going on. How do we ensure lasting peace? So there's been different meetings. We've seen how the governors have visited Ibadan, Ogun, all meeting, trying to see how they could come up with a solution about all of this. But we've got people who equally will say, well, yes, we've seen them meet at different times for different reasons, some including security. But from what we've seen lately, what can we or should the citizens expect in terms of the capacity of the governors to actually come up with a solution about what is going on now?
Thank you very much, Chamberlain. Like I said, first of all, let me, on behalf of the government and the good people of Kogi State, throw our hearts to my colleague, Governor Sani Bello of Niger State, and the people of Niger State, the children and families of those that were kidnapped at a school in Kagara yesterday. It is unfortunate, one too many, and we pray for the safe return of these children. Yes, yesterday, unfortunately, I couldn't attend the meeting of the NGF. I had to send my deputy to represent me because the 37 youths of leaders of this country, the National Youth Council of Nigeria, paid a courtesy call on me yesterday. I had an interactive session, and I couldn't attend. But from the breaking news and I heard was that governors are taking steps in ensuring that there is lasting peace in this country. Well, I'm a governor, and there are other 35 other governors. I can talk of my own capacity, and I'm advocating for all of us to bend down, sit down, and take this insecurity head-on and ensure that our entities, our federating units, our states are secured. As chief security officers, that is our duties and responsibilities, and if we sit up and do our job, Mr. President's job will be less. We have 36 units, including FCT. Each and every one of us, I said, should sit down and do our job. When I assumed office in Kogi State, everybody knows that Kogi State used to be a hotbed for criminality, banditry, Boko Haram, armed robbery, and the rest. Communal clash and clannish, religious. But within the first 6 months of my coming into office, I put a stop to all such menace. And today, Kogi State is the safest state as far as Nigeria is concerned. I ensure that I'm connected to the people. I ensure that the people have trust and belief in my style of leadership and in my administration. And the people cooperated very well with law enforcement agencies. I ensure that the law enforcement agencies that are existing in my state, from the Army, Police, Navy, DSS, and Civil Defense, there's collaboration and cooperation, intelligence sharing, and good management of information within us here. And as the Chief Security Officer, I did not pay or play politics with insecurity. I ensure that such insecurity came to an end. So all of us should be on our toes and do our job in our various states. That is my thinking, my take for it.
Okay, but listen to you. I mean, some will think, are you suggesting that if the governors actually, perhaps in your words, sit up, these cases will not degenerate as far as it has gone now?
I am a governor of one state. Honestly speaking, the security challenges in various states differ, even though there's a generic one of armed robbery, banditry, and kidnapping. But every crime takes place on the land, not in the air or not in the sky. And there are people that occupy or live in these areas. And they have information. Once such informations are being provided, if they trust the government well enough and provide such information, we should be able to act on it and deal with it squarely. You see, the Nigerian police that are existing today is the same Nigerian police that are in Kogi State. The army that are existing in the country today is the same we have here. All the law enforcement agencies as we have them across the 36 states, including FCT, is exactly what I have in Kogi State. We are corroborating. My commissioner of police, my director DSS, my army commander, my naval commander, civil defense commander, we are all corroborating and they are relating very well with the citizens. We are connected to the people. And leadership at all levels are doing their best, starting from the community leaders, the ward leaders, the local government chairmen and leaders, before the state. Youth leaders, women leaders, market women leaders, and all what have you. We are corroborating very well. Farmers. So such information, whenever they provided it, we act on it swiftly. We don't pay lipstick service. We don't pass buck. We don't visit Abuja for solution at all times. I don't think there's any day I've ever visited Abuja for any solution. What I do is to sit down here and do my job.
Well, if I could just give an analogy on that, there are states that have come up with, the state assemblies, they come up with anti-open grazing laws, different provisions for different states. And that is as far as they can do concerning the law within their state, I reckon. But that notwithstanding, they still say that in spite of those laws, you still have herders who are violating those laws. And since they say we don't control security, the center does control security. That is where they are hamstrung about.
We are Nigerians, Chamberlain. That is why I said, you see, despite all laws, you see, when at all times I always hear about laws, laws, laws. Yes, it is good to have laws, but it is good to have workable laws. In this country, we have enough laws. All we need to do is to deploy sincerity, is to deploy, is to be in touch with the people. Let us ensure that any law we are going to pass is enforceable, it is useful, it is workable. Yes, we know today that open grazing is no longer, in vogue, it's no longer feasible. We can't advance with open grazing any longer. I am not saying that open grazing is the answer or the way to go. But here in Kogi State, there is still open grazing. Farmers and herders are cohabiting. We didn't have law prohibiting the open grazing. In fact, we accommodate Fulanis, we accommodate Hausas, we accommodate Yorubas, we accommodate Igbos, we accommodate everybody here in Kogi State, and they live here. They've been living here for decades, for centuries. We met them there. All we need to do is to ensure that, look, there is synergy. Whatever is obtainable 10 years ago that is no longer obtainable today, it is physical, you will see it. The people will know that this is no longer feasible. And there's no need making some laws sometimes that are not enforceable. Okay, you enforce law that there should be no open grazing, then cows, there is open grazing, you arrest cows, you kill Fulanis, you kill the herders or the cattle, and there's reprisal and crisis everywhere. I think let us just be in tune with what the society needs. Let us ensure that we do our job. That is just what it is. Well, and of course, it is not only limited to Kogi State alone or the state government alone. Federal government should equally come up. For instance, issue of cattle ranching. That is what is modern. That is the way we should go. There are categories of people in Nigeria that is their trade. That is their business. Let there be concerted, deliberate, and goodwill in coming up with funds. Just like we build out airlines, we build out banks, we are directly involved in farmers, especially crop farming. Let us equally, deliberately get involved in ranching and ensuring that Fulanis are well settled and enhance their business for them. There's nothing wrong in that. I mean, it was muted in the National Life Transformation Program, but
we'll come to all those issues that you have raised.
Politics around the National Life Transformation Program. Yes. And let's ensure that every state that desires peace, especially those that are harboring, that are having the challenges of this Fulani Headers crisis.
Well, we'll come to those issues, Your Excellency, if you can hear me. Yes, Your Excellency, part of the issues you raised earlier about the need for the chief executives of states to do their jobs, very, very interesting, some would say. But then I know that the NGF is a kind of experience sharing group for governors. I'm wondering, were these kinds of experiences shared among, your colleagues, things that you did and maybe one or two other, state governors did to ensure that there is peace in their environment? Did you have such meetings previously to say, okay, these are the kind of things that you think we can do to do our jobs to ensure that there is peace in the environment?
Thank you very much. Yes, NGF is just a forum of governors to compare for peer review mechanism, so to speak. But however, the experience you share in the NGF to depend on the priority of each and every one of us. I must say straight away that there are some of us that are more serious on our jobs than the other. I won't call names. There are some of us who are prioritizing our job and we're doing it very well in our various states, and some are simply playing politics. And the earlier we stop that, the better. And let's lessen the burden of Mr. President, and let's save the lives of our people. What happened in Shasha in Ibadan is most unfortunate. It is most unfortunate what happened in Shasha in Ibadan. These are victims attacking victims. The Yorubas attacking Hausa Fulanis are victims. The Hausa Fulanis attacking Yorubas are victims of maladministration successively from the past, even sometimes, even currently. So, when you share or you compare experiences, you share it, it is just probably advisory. You must not necessarily take somebody's experience. And sometimes it depends on peculiarity of where you're operating from. At least in Kogi State, we are having a heterogeneous kind of composition, religious-wise, ethnic-wise, and various divergent background. And we are handling it very well here. So I see no reason why majorly, some states where you have just two tribes or one tribe and they'll be attacking each other, we should be able to stand up and stamp our feet on ground and put a stop to the menace. It is not needed. It is not needed at this time. We require to have empathy for our people. We should preach love and affection among our people. And let us get involved in the governance of our state. Let us get connected to the community. At least before it gets to the level of burning houses, killing one another, burning livelihoods, markets, and destroying our lives. We should have enough intelligence. We should be able to nip it in the bud and not allow it escalate to that level. Before we'll now be talking of governors visiting each other, calling on federal government. For crying out loud, are we expecting Mr. President to be in Oyo State in Shasha to prevent that mayhem? Are we expecting Mr. President to carry AK-47 and be safeguarding all schools? Are we expecting Mr. President to be on the highway? I mean, we should get connected to our people and ensure that they connected with us as well and come up with solutions to solve this problem once and for all.
But Your Excellency, pardon me if I could just jump in, because there are governors who have said, look, The president is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces. A lot stops at his table. What is wrong if they're asking him to act as such?
There's nothing wrong. Don't get me wrong about saying Mr. President is not the commander. President is the commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. He gives command. But it behoves on all the commanders, all of us that are in our various states, to do our job. As I speak now, I mean, a lot of my colleagues would understand exactly what I'm saying. I told you, I used Kogi State as, for example. There have been presidents before President Muhammadu Buhari. There has been governors before I came on board. And I said that in Kogi State used to be a hotbed of criminals. Yet we have, Kogi State is a microcosm of Nigeria. But I have put a stop to communal clash, fight over farmlands, fish ponds, clannish, festival, and what have you. Just pockets of highway, kidnapping sometimes. And let me tell you, every kidnap or any kidnap that takes place in Kogi State, we always go after them and liquidate them. So, I am doing my job here. I am not expecting Mr. President. Of course, there was one time or the other that, one community attacked another one here. But I don't have to allow it to escalate. I did not run to the villa and say, Mr. President, please come and secure my enclave for me. I don't have to disparage the security agencies. They are doing their best within the limited resources. All I did was to ensure that the communities live in peace. I foster love. I foster cooperation. And I ran this administration, I'm running this administration with open heart, with all amount of sincerity. And the people know. Open book, open door policy. They believe me. They believe in law enforcement agencies that are existing in Kogi State. They volunteer information. They have people to reach, starting from community to ward to the local government before the state. And I ensure that any insecurity escalates to the national level in Kogi State. Even ordinary outbreak of disease, I ensure that we take care of it in Kogi State here without necessarily escalating it. That is the point, that's what I'm saying. So if every one of us is doing our job in that manner, Nigeria is too big, is too sweet, is too blessed to be having all this kind of crisis at hand.
Many already know your views about the recent health challenge hitting the country and the world, but speaking about security still, I mean, when you say time and again that as you speak, governors will understand, but there are many who are watching who may not quite understand what your point is exactly, because when you say they play politics with security, is there any governor of any state who doesn't like peace in the state? Because without peace, how will investors come into the state? How will they govern in peace?
Every governor signed to protect lives and livelihood. I don't think there's any governor that is up to give up the lives and livelihood of his citizens. I am simply saying, let's do our job and do it properly, with all amount of sincerity. And if we do that, our enclaves, our states will be safer than it is today. Everybody is doing his own best in his own state, but there are still a lot more to be done. Even in Kogi State, as much as we are enjoying peace and security today, there are still a lot more that needs to be done. I am not resting. My officials are not resting. The law enforcement agencies are not resting as well, including the citizens that are cooperating and giving us every support. We are not resting as well. So it is a continuous process. And by the grace of God, if we do our job very well and we meet with our people, we will be able to stop it. Let me tell you something. Before...
Okay, well, you'll be able to say more of those things, but you've made some very, very critical statements here. You've raised the issue of the National Livestock Transformation Plan. I'd love to take you up on that, but if you can just be clear, because you've said this over and over again, that governors need to do their jobs. Are you by any chance indicting the chief security officers of each state where these security challenges occurred?
There are lapses from communities, there are lapses from local governments, there are lapses among citizens before those in authorities. Let every governor instill confidence and believe and trust in the minds and heart of our citizens so that they can cooperate with us very well. All of us are doing our best, facing various challenges in our states. But like I said, there are a lot more to be done.
Well, the National Livestock Transformation Plan that you referenced earlier has some very fantastic provisions. Chief among them, as a matter of fact, the number one of some of those factors is security. It promises that it will address conflicts, and then it'll improve access to justice and peace. Let me ask you very quickly on the justice and peace ambit. So many times when there have been insecurity outbreaks in different areas all across the nation, we talk about living in peace, you know, stemming the tide and all of that. But some people have been wronged. So people are asking, how can there be peace without justice? So how do you think we should go about that? Ensuring that trust, you know, is built would perhaps start, some people would say, with giving justice to those who have been wronged, including the farmers and the herders whose cattle may have been rustled. How do we go about that?
Justice, peace should reign when there is political will to enforce law, to ensure that we live harmoniously, when there is political will for equitable and effective distribution and utilization of resources, when there's political will to push through our programs and policies, when the issue of livestock transformation program was muted, remember, it was first given a name, Ruga. What is Ruga? Ruga means a settlement of herders or livestock farmers, provision of every amenities for them, so that we go into what we call colony of ranches. When it broke out in this country, it was politicized. That, oh, Mr. President wants to colonize our lands. But here we are today. I think when we stop politicizing every government policies and programs, and let's look at the intention, the good intention of government, we will get it right. Now, the National Life Transformation Program, as it is being called again today, from Ruga to cattle colony, now to National Livestock Transformation Program, we are still on it. I wish that politics will not allow the whole process go down the drain once again. And like I said earlier, it is supposed to be an interventionist program where livestock keepers are given adequate attention, just like rice farmers, cashew farmers, and just like banks were even bailed out certain times. Just like when airlines were equally bailed out certain times. These are private businesses. Let those who are ready to keep ranches access fund from either CBN, Federal Ministry of Finance, or anywhere, and settle the Fulanis once and for all. there will
be peace, Excellency,
and there will be economic prosperity.
Okay, you know, we've had people who have been on this program, and they tell us that their communities have actually been invaded and they're being occupied, and I think some communities in Plateau and Benue, and so they say they have valid reasons to make those points on a case-by-case basis, and not that they were politicizing any of those national livestock transformation plans. So that was what some of them felt, so it wasn't across board. But speaking about this being a private business, the AGF was quoted to have recommended that that he was going to advise, or it would be good to set up a pastoralism agency to handle this kind of matters. So if you say this is a private business, does that then mean that there's absolutely no point, no reason whatsoever to suggest that there be a pastoralism agency to handle this kind of matter?
There are agencies that are taking care of several other private businesses. Let me tell you, the governor of Plateau State has done excellently well in ensuring that there is peaceful coexistence and harmonious relationship between the locals and the herders in Plateau State and several other states like that. There is that concerted effort. You see, when I say politicization of that policy, in several quarters, it has been covered by, you know, a lot of guests have came to these channels and other television stations to say Mr. President wants to use Ruga policy or National Life Transformation policy program to annex Nigeria for Fulanis. That is the politicization I was talking of. And then there are several of us, governors, who indicated interest to participate. We have even gone far to prepare lands, acquire lands, prepare everything for the program to take off. But today, in fact, I'm the very first person that indicated interest in the Ruga program. I knew very well I received a lot of backlash on that. But today, I'm here to be considered for that program. So, when I say politicization, that is what I mean. I'm not saying that any governor is politicizing the issue of herders, farmer crisis in their state. Of course, there should be an agency that should take care of this particular herders and farmers issue. For crying out loud, it's going to transform the economy of this country. It is not just for peaceful coexistence alone. And by the time that is considered and it is allowed, and it is not politicized again at the end of the day, I think there's that. Through that, we're going to have a lasting
permit me to button there,
the
but some people will say if this is about farmer herders crisis, so far you've talked about how you have tried to buy into the Ruga plan. It's yet to take off, yet you have been able to achieve some measure of peace in Kogi State. The question is this really about a farmer herder crisis, or is it something else in your experience?
In my experience here in Kogi State, first we desire that Ruga program or National Life Transformation program. We desire it so that there will be lasting peace, among farmers and herders. In fact, not only herders, our teeming youths and women were indicating interest in livestock farming in Kogi State. So it would have benefited even our citizens more. But since we indicated interest and there is no headway, it is often said that when the desirable is not available, the available becomes desirable. So now we cannot send Fulanis away. We cannot send farmers away. We must devise a means of cohabiting. And that is why what we have been able to do, and then involving the traditional rulers, involving the Ardos. In fact, what we advocated for and that we are practicing here in Kogi State is in every traditional council, be it at local level, even at state level, we accommodate Fulanis. Fulanis are members of our traditional councils across board. So wherever there is any issue, it is quickly settled at that local level. Sometimes I don't even get to hear about it. And it is solved. But
the question I'm asking is, before now, I mean, we all know that Kogi State was the hotbed of kidnapping. For travelers who are coming from the south to the north or from north to south, one of the places that used to give them quite a headache was Kogi State. How have you been able to handle the issue of kidnapping? Did you find it related with farmer herders crisis, or did you find that it was another kettle of fish and you had to do it, say, outside of the security agencies?
Okay, yes. Issue of herders farmers clash is one thing. Issue of banditry and kidnapping is another. What I simply did was to ensure that every community, every ward, every local government secure themselves. The youths, the women, the traditional rulers were all involved. They know themselves. They know intruders. They know those who have come to harm them. They quickly pass the information early enough, and security agencies zero in. The same security agencies we are having today. They zero in, and an arrest is made immediately, and we take care of that. So that is exactly how we've been handling. And we, as much as possible, try to share information, and we collaborate among ourselves. So that we're able to do, and it's working effectively in Kogi State.
What do you say to those who are now agitating for security, for state police, who say that that is not enough, that they have also adopted the same measures, but oftentimes it would seem that they are no more than chief logistic officers in their states?
Well, me as chief logistics officer in my state, if it is so called, have been able to apply this ingenuity, and it's working here for me in Kogi State. If I'm chief logistics officer and I'm be able to provide good logistics for those that should do the job, and they are doing the job, I think we are happy for it today in Kogi State.
There are several cases, not just this term, even in the first term, several ministers have said, these are foreign herders. And I mean, several people have said when they try to speak with them, they were speaking French. And you look at them, you see, look, these are not Nigerian herders. Are you still saying we need to accommodate them? Shouldn't we be dealing with those foreign criminal herders as they are properly so-called criminals if they are caught in the act?
Like I said earlier, in Kogi State, Fulanis have cohabited with us for centuries. We know those that are living with us in peace. There are peaceful ones that migrate to our state because Kogi State is accommodating, and this is where to be.
How did you deal with the foreigners
amongst them?
Yeah, the foreigners amongst them.
Yes, they themselves understand, and they know those that are criminals amongst them, because we have integrated them into our community, and even in our governance system here in Kogi State. They equally, in fact, you recall that majority of the victims are Fulanis themselves. So they provide information, and then security agencies zero in. And then we deal with it squarely. That is exactly what we've been doing in Kogi State here.
Some governors say because the community policing initiative that was muted and funds allocated for, some of the governors have said, look, we don't have monies to sustain that kind of system unless we rejig the entire scenario. Would you, for instance, if need be paying those community police officers?
Community policing, the word community policing, will be understood by different people. What we are doing here in Kogi State is community policing. Before the mock talked about community policing as we want it to be. When you see a strange face in a community, and the community reports such strange face to law enforcement agencies, and the person is dealt with accordingly, that is community policing. In Kogi State, every citizen is a police. Every citizen secure their enclaves. That is why it is easy. Security is the business of everybody. If you allow criminal to perch, if you allow criminal to settle in your community. Before you call on law enforcement agencies, a lot of harm would have been done. So we educate every citizen in Kogi State that, look, secure your environment. Make sure that you report any strange face, any act of criminality, immediately to law enforcement agencies. Whenever the situation goes above them, I zero in immediately and make sure we deal with it. There are hardened criminals that have been existing in Kogi State before, and some politicians would harbor them. I make sure that I liquidate them as quickly as possible. And that ends the game of criminality in Kogi State, once and for all. We don't tolerate that in Kogi State. So if anybody is coming to settle with us or live with us, and you're coming with good intention, we welcome you wholeheartedly. There are several millions of Nigerians that have relocated to to Kogi State, and we are cohabiting very well. We expunge the criminals among them without labeling where they come from, without labeling the religion they practice or the ethnicity they belong. But we deal with them as criminals once and for all, and we're living in peace and in harmony in Kogi State here. So issue of community policing first. Yeah. Let the citizens be the police themselves. Let the leaders, the religious leaders, the traditional rulers, youth leaders, women leaders, let them be police themselves and secure their environment. If a criminal goes to an environment and is not welcomed, and there are no local criminals that will harbor them, and there are no big men in those communities to harbor them, they will quit. In Kogi State, let me tell you, when I just came in, as hot as it was then, we had ISIS. In fact, in my own senatorial district, they came, they lived there, they were training Boko Haram, they came with equipments. And with the help of the military, the police, and the DSS, we did not spare anybody. We rout them out immediately. And Kogi Central and the entire Kogi State is very peaceful today.
All right.
That is
all right, Your Excellency.
About it.
All right, then we really thank you for your perspectives. We've been speaking with His Excellency Yahaya Bello, Governor of Kogi State.